The Lord knows your story behind every single tear, and He will hold you close and restore what has been lost. Former Atlanta Braves minor league baseball catcher Jamie Hicks had it all until addiction took over his life, and he was ready to end it all one night with a loaded gun in his hand. But he couldn't pull the trigger. His beautiful wife, Greta, had her own battle to fight, breast cancer. Their situation seemed impossible, but with God, they learned nothing is impossible. This is their story. This is today's Nashville. This is faith. Jamie, Greta, what a blessing it is to have you. I have been wanting to share your story ever since I heard it. Greta, we were on a bus going down to Honduras on a medical mission.
Yes.
I didn't know really anybody personally. I mean, I did, but and I started talking to you, and you started sharing your story because I wanted to know who you were. And then all of a sudden, everybody started talking about this Jamie guy, the baseball player. And I'm like, who are you married to? And I thought, after I heard your story and what God has done in your life, both of your lives, I thought you have to be on the show. Greta, I want you to share a little bit about, what God has done. And let's go back where it all started. You've had your own struggles with breast cancer. Jamie's had his struggles, but God brought it all back together because it was almost an impossible situation, wasn't it?
It was. It was. He was in the middle of his own personal struggle with alcohol, and we had 6 children. 4 of them really young, under the age of 10. I found a lump in my breast, and I went to have that checked out. And, I think God's plan was not for that to be the issue at the moment. And they did an ultrasound, and they said, it's just a cyst. Then maybe 6 months later?
Something like that.
5 months later.
Yeah, they told you it was a cyst and come and get it drained when you have time.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have time, so.
And then he couldn't have handled it. In the middle of the hardest fight of his life, having to care for me would have been way too much.
Jamie, I want to go back to where you were. You were with the Atlanta Braves.
I was.
Let's talk about that. Let's go back and talk about it.
Go back and talk about it. I played college ball at Middle Tennessee State University from 91 to 94. I was getting really a lot of attention around my junior year of college. The girl I was dating at the time, all my family, the scout was calling them just to try to get a background on me if it was somebody that fit in their organization. We went out to dinner. He wrote down on a sticky note and handed it to me. He said, would you sign for this? It was $550,000 in 1993. And I was absolutely no brainer. And our last regular season game, we were in Lexington, University of Kentucky, and I got hit in the hand with a fastball and shattered my hand. So that was gone. So I had to come back to school for my senior year. Had a really good year. I was not a good student. So baseball was it. All eggs in a basket. I wanted to play Major League Baseball. That was what I wanted to do ever since I was 4 years old. And that was my main objective in life. That's all I worked for. It's all I ever wanted to do. So had a good year. As a senior, you've lost all your bargaining power. When the draft come, I didn't get drafted in any rounds. The local scout called me and said, Atlanta needs a catcher. And I told him, you were their guy. They threw me a little bit of money and said, take it or go find a job. So I flew out to West Palm Beach, was there a couple weeks, went to advanced rookie ball in Idaho Falls, Idaho, then back to Macon, Georgia to finish up the first year in A-ball. The next year in 95, my first full season was the Durham Bulls. The movie, all of the just, I don't know, you've hit it big going to play for Durham. And that was where the road to destruction hit that year. After that, we were Macon, Georgia, Greenville, South Carolina. Then the next year in Greenville, South Carolina, and then a little stint in AAA in Richmond, Virginia, and then got released.
You said something about the road to destruction. What was that about?
You go to college and you start dealing in alcohol. Tried marijuana, didn't like it. I'm hyper, I'm loud, and that was not what I wanted to do. It didn't work for me. So still was into the alcohol, and had little dabbles with cocaine, and then I had double knee surgery, and my wife, or not my wife, I'm sorry, my girlfriend and my mom were there.
Another one?
No, no, not that you know of. They were there. The team was gone. They were traveling for 2 weeks. They came back to Nashville. You have a bunch of groupies in minor league ball. I guess they're trying to hit it big with somebody. And girl thought it was a great idea to take a shot of heroin. And I did, and they found me dead the next morning. Needle in the arm, still wrapped up. Team was gone. And my neighbor, where the apartment complex where we were at, just thought something was wrong. So, God showed up again there. 2 shots of Narcan, and they said I come up swinging. I was cocaine, beer, steroids, you name it, whatever I could get in my body, I was putting it in there. But that was the road to destruction where it all started.
What was going on inside of you at that time? Why were you taking the drugs? Or
I thought it was cool, I guess. I tried it and liked it. The steroids started because I saw the guys playing in the big leagues, and these guys were monsters, and that was in the steroid era. So I thought, if I do this, I'm going to get there. I'm going to live out my dream. But then the drugs I liked them. And that was just, my first game playing high was my best game as a pro player. And as an addict goes, you want more. You're chasing. You want more. And I never got there. I never got more. But it was the road of getting me out of baseball. What I've worked for my whole life, I quit working, and the drugs and alcohol just overwhelmed my life. And that was I had to do it to day in, day out.
We're going to talk about this in a minute, but I heard that took you to a place where you even put a gun to your head. And we're going to talk about that when we come back. Jamie, you went from a dark place, but then you found your future bride sitting next to you. Tell me about that.
I did. The Little League Park, where I played when I moved here, Rotary, Greta's oldest son, David, was playing out there, and I was umpiring. There was 2 older fellas that umpired me when I played out there, and we all umpired together, and they were like, there's somebody here you need to meet. And if I'm not mistaken, I think she was working the concession stand, and absolutely beautiful. I hated rejection, so I was very slow about pursuing anything. But we did go out, and we hit it off pretty good. And her having 2 kids already, but we hit it off really well too.
Greta, what was your take?
I thought he was a little young. But his personality was so larger than life. And the way that he came in to our little family, which I was really guarded about anybody coming into our family. But he came in, and the very second date, my daughter had a dance competition in Chattanooga, and he said, "How about if I just ride along?" That's a lot, for someone to come in and take off and be at a dance competition with you all weekend. I knew right then, okay, he gets our life. He was pretty amazing.
Were you still battling addiction at this time? And Greta, did you know about it?
He was.
I drank a lot.
He was.
Was that a concern for you, or?
I didn't know. I didn't, right in the beginning, I thought he drank a lot, which was, a little odd to me because it was a lot, but I didn't think it was a problem. I thought that it was just, he's young and he likes to party.
Now, were you believers at this time?
So I grew up in church, but I didn't grow up learning about a relationship with God. I knew that it's where I wanted to be, and God always kept me right there, but I didn't really pursue a relationship with God then.
I didn't either. I even went to a Christian school when I moved here, and when I graduated there, I vowed I'd never step foot in a church again. Just watching the hypocritical side of it, what you hear from, and I just, people that I looked up to, and I said, I don't want any part of this.
Tell me about the time where it just took over your life again.
When you get released from your dream, and now you got to come back in and fit into the real world. I'd lost my identity, who I was, who everybody knew me, through playing ball. That was tough. That was tough. And before I even met Greta, I'd moved back in. I stayed with my mom, and I went to work. I came home, I drank, I locked myself in my bedroom and wouldn't come out. And I get up next morning, and start the cycle all over again. But I don't know. I guess gradually as you get more into it, and then I can't tell you the exact moment when it consumed my life. I don't know. But it was just, I had to have it every day. The cocaine I didn't have every day, just whenever my buddy at work that I worked with, whenever he had it, I had it.
Greta, you were sharing down in Honduras when we were down there that it got so bad. And I also read there was a time in your life, Jamie, and I think this is when you were both married, you both were going through your situations with cancer and your addiction. You were at the point of where you just wanted to end it all.
I did. It was April of 2010. I was at the same ballpark. I was picking up trash every night after they played. I would clean the park by myself just to make money to feed the addiction. We were in a financial place where we were struggling for the next meal. And so the money I made at the park, I kept for me. The 6 kids and her were not even in the equation. And at the end of April, I knew my buddy at work, I knew where he had his pistol, and I got it. I had a key to his house. I would go there and drink on the clock. I knew where his pistol was, and I got it. And 2 nights in a row at the ballpark, it's wooded, it's a lot of woods. I mean, the wind just howling. And I sat on the picnic table and I said, God, if you're real, you got to show me something right here, right now. And it stopped. It was as calm as it is in this room. Click, went on about my business. I came in the next night and same situation, same scenario, windy, just howling through the park. And I said, you showed me last night, so you got to show me again. Boom. And, he revealed himself to me again, and I still didn't listen. I went on about my thing and still carried on with alcohol every day and cocaine when I could get it. And, May 20th we were out of our house with the flood in Nashville, and My boss at the time knew where we were staying at Greta's parents. And I didn't show up for work. I didn't call nobody. I didn't do nothing. I pulled into our house and we weren't talking.
We hadn't spoken other than just your obligatory, it's your day to pick up the kids, or I need you to do this or that, in probably two or more months, because it was just so, it was so awful.
Were you going through your breast cancer?
Not
at this?
yet.
Okay.
So, that was part of the of God's work. He that tumor was there, but they said it was a cyst, and that these months were the worst months, and I just can't even imagine.
Did you know what he was going through and that he thought about taking his life?
No, because we didn't discuss anything. There was no talking back and forth between us, because he was just drinking all the time, and he wasn't very kind. He wasn't a bad man to me. I mean, he wasn't an abusive man to me, but he just wasn't very kind. And I didn't have any. I'm sure I wasn't very kind either.
No, just very selfish. Because that was all I cared about, was just feeding me. And then I wanted to take myself out of the equation for them. I thought it was better for them, for her and the kids, if I was gone. That's where my mindset was at.
But God did an amazing work, and we're going to talk about it when we come back. Jamie, when did God get a hold of your life and say, okay, it is time to change?
It was May 20th, 2010, when I didn't show up for work. And my boss knew where we were staying, and they come looking for me.
We had all been looking for him.
And
He didn't come home the night before.
And they found, we were at our house, so we were out with the flood, and come upstairs, and like we said, we haven't been communicating at all. And I put some clothes on and hit the car, and boom, was on my way to work. Well, I met my boss at the Donaldson Center. I was a mess. Probably been up 2 or 3 days on a real bad bender, and he looked at me and goes, "If I turn you loose in this truck, will you give me 8 hours?" And I said, "No, I can't do it." Followed him downtown, talked to our EAP people at work, and they recommended rehab. She was not even the first person I called. We're checking in that evening. I called Pastor Owen and I called Jason Weatherford, were the 2 people that I called. "Can you meet me at the house? I got to pack a bag. We're going to rehab." Man, that's awesome. Great. So we went over to Greta's parents where she was staying. We pulled in, and I can imagine she knew something was up with who was with me. Told them the news, probably the first time we'd hugged or done anything in a while. The kid, everybody's in tears. I remember handing her an envelope, $800 to $1,000. She's struggling to feed the kids. So we said our goodbyes, and off I went. Checked into rehab, and you go into medical. You're there for a few days detoxing. And that night, I'm thinking, how do I get out of here? This is crazy. I'm not as bad off as everybody says. A gentleman come in. His name was John, had a blonde ponytail, brought in some literature. He said, "My name's John. I brought you some literature. We're not a Christian-based program. We're a traditional 12 steps." He said, "But I was called to come and pray for you." And he knelt down and prayed for me, and it was gone. It was over right then. When he was done, it was done. I had no desire whatsoever. I was clear-minded for the first time in, gosh, a long time. And, that 30 days of rehab was probably one of the greatest experiences of my life. Changed it. And God stuck his hand in there. He didn't give up. And this time I finally listened.
And you know what, Greta, you needed him at that time, because this was the time you found out you had cancer, right?
Yes, it was.
And what was going through your mind?
I was terrified because I didn't know, is this something that is gonna, how are we gonna get through this? Because it had grown so much from when they told me it wasn't cancer to the time that it was already a 10-centimeter tumor, and I was terrified. I had a great support system with my small group of women at church that I knew would pray for me and rally around me. But I think the best part was I had a sober husband who was there for all of us.
Well, we got, you look at God's plan, got sober. When I got out, we were in halfway through a 5-year bankruptcy. And, I think I'd been home a couple weeks and got a letter in the mail from the trustee's office. Said, you're paid in full. Your slate's clean. You start all over. Wait a minute. There's no way. So I made some phone calls every day for a few days, and they said, no, Mr. Hicks, you're clean. Your slate's clean. So we got sober. We kind of got our finances. It's always been a train wreck, somewhat in order to go through the couple years battling with her. Because there was no way we would have got through it if we were on the same road we were going down. I wouldn't have got through it. I'd either been dead or in prison.
So he needed to be sober first. He couldn't have, yeah. He needed to be sober first.
Yeah. How was your journey through breast cancer? 2 years?
It was about a year and a half, almost 2 full years, yes. It was, God showed up so many times in so many beautiful ways that it was amazing to me. I learned more about relationship with God in that moment than I ever understood. I had things that happened, like I went for a heart scan because one of the medicines that I had to have injected was really damaging to your heart. So I went in, and the gentleman who was doing it said, I have a really strange question, but does your husband work at the Little League Park? And I said, he does. He said, is his name Jamie? And I said, yeah. He said, my wife and I have been praying for you for months.
Did you know them?
No. He was standing behind Jamie at the ballpark, and he was telling someone else what was going on with us. And he said, God just led me to pray for you. And my wife and I have been praying for you. And then I saw that you were on my schedule. And I just knew it had to be the same.
And you all got involved in church too.
Yes. That was one of the things that I felt really strongly that I wanted to raise my children in a church. And we searched for a church. And years ago, before we started this part of the journey, a friend invited us to come to the Grace Place, which I thought, what a great name.
It is a great place. That's
What
my
a-
church. I
what
mean,
a
I go
great
to
name.
Grace Place too. So
Yeah.
I know the place.
So I went. He wouldn't come with me then. I went. I had all 4 of the little babies with me and the preteens, and we went 1 or 2 times. And then we moved on. And then later I had a dance studio, and this really cool couple came in with their little girl, and he was an associate pastor at the Grace Place, and they were people. They were our people. We knew it. They were our people. And he talked about his church all the time, and he said the Grace Place, and I said, I went there a long time ago, and he said, you should come back. And we did. We went back.
We've been there 16 years. I mean, for the first 4 years of me going was waking up on Sunday mornings, high, drunk, and she would be, I just need for you to smile and not say nothing. And that's how I was good at that. I was good at faking stuff.
Just wanted to get.
And I knew the first time we heard Pastor Tommy preach, I think I may have even said it on the way home, this is where we need to be. As bad a shape as I was in, God's still planting the seed, Pastor Owen planting the seed, this is where we need to be. And 16 years later, we're still there. People's moved on. Our friends, they've moved on, but we've made more friends as people come in. And, it's home.
It is.
It's home.
You're home.
It is.
And you know what? God is doing an amazing work in your lives, and you're blessing and encouraging so many. And I'm just so blessed that I get to share your story. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
My friend, does your situation seem impossible? Just remember, just like Jamie and Greta, with God, nothing is impossible. If you haven't given your life to Him today, do it now. This is today's Nashville. This is faith.
Cornerstone Television wishes to thank all our faithful viewers whose consistent prayers and financial support have made this program possible.